Hello all, and I hope you are all well in these extraordinary times. I'd like to welcome you all to the first Fintech Finance virtual arena, where we're going to be hosting you all today. In this special arena, we're going to be discussing various topics from acquisitions, small and large, to the very exciting and ever-changing payments industry. Now, joining me for this first episode, I have Mark and David. Mark, as a long-term guest of our channel, can you just tell me a little bit about Apply Financial, its history up until the end of Feb, and what role it's had in the payments industry?
Yeah, well, March the 11th actually is the important date, up to
March the 11th.
It'll be etched on my brain forever. So we're 10 years old. We're probably the only company in the world that does a full solution set of validations through a single REST API and a cloud base. So we've been working from day one on the cloud API solution, and now we have over 700 companies around the world that use our technology. And then of course that has been enhanced by the acquisition from Acuity, of whom David, who's sitting in the room with me, was the architect of that deal.
Excellent. So March the 11th is the date we've got to remember. And David, Acuity have played a pretty large part in the payments revolution for many organisations around the world. Up again until March the 11th. Can you just give me a bit of the backstory of Acuity and where Acuity has always seen payments heading towards?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having us on this inaugural virtual get-together. It's good to make the most of these times. I think that, a little bit about Acuity. Obviously, we've been around for a long time. I think, you could probably trace us back to 1835. Certainly Banker's Almanac, first edition was 1845. So this is not our first payments revolution, to say the least. And, we've sort of grown through acquisitions. We're part of the RELX group, which is obviously a FTSE 100 company, and a very large player in print and also all forms of sort of digital data and information. And the way we sort of view the payments market is our kind of history with it is very much grown alongside SWIFT. We've been the ABA registrar since 1910, etc. And what we've seen really probably over the last sort of 10 years, but I think accelerating over the last 5 years, is really a kind of the kind of transformation that does probably only come along once every sort of 30 to 50 years, where we've seen all of that basics of what we know around the cross-border payments and SWIFT network, etc., change and be kind of questioned through whether it be Ripple coming along and SWIFT responding with GPI, or just generally this proliferation of faster payments as a result of all of us consumers wanting things to move at the speed we're used to. So we viewed the market as we've been in the market a long time, and we're viewing this period as being probably one of the largest changes we've ever seen, and probably one of the most exciting, to be honest. We're now kind of edging towards global faster payments and cross-border being able to measure it in hours rather than days. So we're very excited about what's going on in the market at the moment.
Fantastic. So of course, one of the big things that's happening in the market at the moment is just over a week ago, Acuity acquired Apply Financial. Let's talk about that for a moment. I don't really want to go into the specifics. I want to go into the product. Now, it seems quite a nice connection in terms of product. What does this mean for both parties from a product perspective?
Well, I think, if I may, Mark, I'll go first. I mean, if you look at where Acuity have kind of traditionally been very present in the market, that was helping banks, but also some corporates, with those large-scale payment operations. And what that typically meant was we would provide a file of our data to be plugged into something like a master data management system within a bank, within payments ops, to support that. And of course, what that meant is the majority of time we're dealing with the payment after it's entered the system, after the somehow the customer's got that through to the bank, we would then be in effect doing our work to try and increase the chances of that payment to go through without any intervention. What we saw with Apply was they supported it earlier in the stage. So typically with the API integration, that was happening either at the front end or in some kind of bulk upload. And we saw this as a really good marriage of the kind of deep density and knowledge we have around the data side with that ability to kind of get earlier in the process to prevent some of these errors that cause payments to stop entering the system in the first place. So we saw that as a very complementary aspect to our product portfolio, and also from an Apply point of view, quite complementary from them. But I'll hand over to Mark to see how he viewed it.
Yeah, I mean, we the thing that was exciting to us was that we had come across Acuity many times in our travels, and they always had to us an excellent world-class set of data. They were in a different area of the institution to us, so I didn't feel at any time that it was a competitive scenario. In fact, it was very complementary, and it gives us access to an even more comprehensive set of data at the front end, so we can do exactly what David says. We can help people who are entering a payment detail get it right first time, and then maintain that beneficiary detail through the life of the relationship in real time. It was all positives, and the other positive is that Acuity have a very large client base that our product is ideally made for, so the added value is quite significant.
Right, I want to talk a little bit about acquisitions as a whole, because, throughout, you mentioned Acuity has grown since the 1800s through obviously organic growth, but also through acquisitions. What are some of the key ingredients of a successful acquisition?
I mean, I think that's a very important question, which is you can look at acquisitions to say, okay, you can grow by acquisitions, but that's only true if they work. And I think when we were looking at kind of what was going on in the marketplace and how we wanted to evolve our proposition, I guess one of the most important things was to understand that if we were going to acquire a company, in this case Apply, was it going to work? And the number one question, and Mark and I kind of, I think both see this as being critical, was from a cultural point of view, was it going to happen for us? Did we see the market in the same way? Did we view how we kind of go about addressing the customer demand, how we go about servicing the customers? Was that all a good fit? And my background prior to Acuity was I was an entrepreneur for 10 years, set up my own company, exited my own company. So I think Mark and I share some DNA around what it takes to really service a customer. And one of the attractions I had of Acuity was when I joined Acuity, it was clear they had a similar view. But I think first and foremost, certainly in a more specific, my excitement about sort of bringing Apply into the family is we knew pretty early on that from a cultural point of view it was going to work. We saw things in a similar way. We really saw that there was an opportunity to improve both propositions into the marketplace, and we were excited about going after that together. So I think that certainly for me was one of the most important parts of the acquisition, that we felt that it was going to culturally fit. I think the other one, and Mark alluded to it, was we felt that Acuity's existing client base would fundamentally benefit from us bringing the Apply technology in and really making it available with that kind of wider set of insights that Acuity brings to the table. And certainly, just being out in the market, talking to our customers, talking to the market generally, kind of really getting that combination of not allowing bad data to enter the system in the first place, and then cleaning up anything that did manage to find its way in, certainly felt like a win for the customer base as well.
I'm so glad you said that about culture. Obviously, I've seen Applied Financial over the last few years, and it seems to be quite, well, Mark is quite a straight talker, Mark, and it's all about getting the product done efficiently. Was there any kind of eureka moment when you thought, do you know what, we work well together here, there is a definite cultural fit?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, I think I'd met, David and I knew each other from the past, from his entrepreneurial days, which I'm sure there's plenty more entrepreneurial days to go forward with as well. But as soon as we sat down and started talking about it and realised that we both had a common goal, that it made it very easy. And then as we went through the process of diving deep into our products and strategy and understanding what the Acuity strategy was and getting more people involved on both sides, I don't think we ever had a meeting where we came away thinking we've taken a step back. We were taking steps forward. So, and we did do it in record time, which was brilliant. Although I'm not sure working 27-hour days is a good idea when you're my age, but it felt like that and the due diligence process. But culturally, I mean, the cultural fit was great, and we're now there now. We're sort of 2 weeks in, and everything apart from the virus, of course, is going to plan.
Excellent. Well, I mean, throughout history, there's been some pretty significant acquisitions that have not just shaped the payments industry, but to be very frank, shaped the world. My personal favourite acquisition, I love Disney acquiring Pixar, not because of the properties, the rights, but because you alluded to it earlier, David, is the culture, and Disney kind of lost its way a bit and kind of took on kind of Pixar's culture there. So for me, that is my personal kind of favourite acquisition. David and Mark, what are some of your, looking retrospectively, what have been throughout history, some of the acquisitions that you thought that was a worthwhile, smart acquisition?
I think my favourite, and it's a bit of an obvious one, but it still really worked for me, is Apple buying NXT and getting jobs back was pretty much as shaped, I think, bear in mind the equipment we're using, etc., has fairly much shaped history. And again, it was an interesting one because certainly at that point, I think Apple had kind of maybe gone away from their roots and maybe was potentially leading themselves down a path that was less productive. And, I think it gave them two things. One, it refreshed their operating system, which was much needed, but obviously bringing Steve Jobs back in and completely revitalised the company and put it to the force that it is today. So that's certainly one of my favourites.
Yeah, actually, I think you stole my thunder there, because both of us being Apple addicts, I've got so much Apple equipment in this room that when somebody sends me a message, it goes off about 4 times on 4 different pieces of equipment. And my other kind of favourite acquisition is nothing to do with fintech. It's the automotive industry. And when Fiat bought Ferrari from under the noses of Ford, I thought that was great. And as an Alfa Romeo lifelong aficionado, they then bought Alfa Romeo as well. So now I have a combination of a Ferrari and Alfa Romeo sitting on my drive. So I'm a very happy man.
Actually, I heard that was one of the first.
Apart from that, my favourite acquisition, obviously, is Acuity buying Applied Financial. It trumps them all.
Well, as a big car fan and somebody that actually normally lives in Italy, very near the Ferrari factory, I agree that Fiat's ability to solve Ferrari's historical financial woes was definitely transformative in enjoying some of the fine machinery that they now make. Yeah.
But we are all agreed though that any acquisition needs to involve Steve Jobs, whether it be the Apple or the Pixar side of things.
It's certainly the majority view, yeah.
I think he'll go down in our lifetime as probably the greatest innovator and entrepreneur, in my opinion. Probably, other people might say Elon Musk perhaps because of what he's done, but I think Jobs is, for all his personality traits, was a visionary genius. And a straight talker who got things done. We like that.
We definitely like that.
Excellent. Well, let's just go back obviously on to, you mentioned the favourite acquisition of Acuity and Apply Financial. Why, David, were you looking to really sort of maintain, or to use Apply Financial to help maintain your position as the leader in the payments industry? What was it about their product that you thought this is something that we need to have in-house as opposed to partnering?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, the way we were seeing the market was that, the pace of change was just accelerating. And that, looking forward as we were, and this was kind of, I joined Acuity around about this time last year, and really spent the first sort of 6 months really having a look at where we were going, where the market was going, etc. So we saw that the pace of change was, if anything, accelerating. And that really led me to believe that the right way of us keeping pace with that change and being able to continue to serve our customers in the right way was really to bring in some of the inevitable energy you get from a smaller company, a startup. I think Acuity has historically been very good at staying more entrepreneurial, and at leadership level it has been quite that way. But having been there myself, there's nothing that replaces the energy of a startup, the energy of a fintech. And I felt that in view of the pace of change, the best way for us to really kind of keep up with that pace and hopefully kind of lead the way with that and continue to keep our market position was to really bring that startup mentality in. And looking around the market, I mean, and I'm sure Mark would agree, Apply really were a standout for me in kind of being quite lean, being quite scrappy, having some really early insight into the fact that things were going SaaS, things were going to be API driven, and really probably gone into the market very early with that mindset, but we're really seeing the benefit now of, to a certain extent, the market catching up with that view and the market really seeing the benefits of that approach to the specific problems we see around STP and ensuring these payments go through without problems.
I think you're right, David, saying, we were early into the market. We're probably 5 years too early in a sense. So we stayed lean and mean because we had to for 5 years, because we were talking to people about API and cloud and functionality through an API, and it was like a foreign language to them. But luckily over the last few years that's changed dramatically, and what we've developed and learned is a huge amount around the self-service element of a SaaS solution. So plugging an API in is relatively simple. REST API is pretty standard. But where you've got hundreds of different functions sitting behind that API that can be configured, the way we've done it without any coding is something we've learned over the years. It's been quite a painful process. We've had moments of panic, just like everybody else does. But now we've arrived at something that was, we know to be unique at the time. And there's more people coming in now and doing self-service APIs, but certainly when we were doing it, we were breaking new ground, and my CTO, Martin Eves, had many a sleepless night scratching his head on how the hell we were going to arrive at a solution that I wanted to give to a client. But that's the beauty of the startup and innovation mentality, and long may it continue, because we've got with Acuity, we've basically said this is what our ambition is for the product, and they just said, well, tell us what you need. So it was a nice conversation to have, rather than sitting there in pre-acquisition day saying, what can we afford? It's a different mentality now.
With that in mind, I heard a story, Mark, and we don't have to go into it, that there was a point in the very, very early days of Apply Financial where you did a do-or-die trip to San Francisco, and you ended up either raising or winning a client on that one trip.
No, I raised funding from True Ventures. Yeah, I mean, I won't say it was do or die. I was funding the business, so I was kind of hoping somebody else would dip their hands in the pocket, and I got introduced to Phil Black at True Ventures. who, in my opinion, is probably the best VC in the world, or his company is the best in the world for seed funding. And yes, went in the morning, had a meeting, and in the afternoon had lunch, and they just basically said, well, we'll invest. And it was, having dealt with VCs over many years, it was probably the easiest conversation I've ever had.
Now, 10 years of Apply Financial, it's your baby. What was it specifically that made you think, you know what, I am comfortable, I am happy, I think this is a good new home for Apply Financial and my whole team there? Was there kind of one moment where you thought, this is the exact company that we need to be a part of?
Well, I've raised money before for companies. I've started up companies, and you instinctively know the more you do it that you get to a point where you've reached an inflection point. And around about June, July of last year, I thought we're starting to grow. To get to where we want to get to, which is to have thousands of companies using it, we need more infrastructure around us of people and finance. So the best thing to do is to either get investment or to sell to a like-minded buyer. And that was in June. And it was the right decision, no doubt about that, because we did reach the inflection point. We were growing very quickly. It makes it very difficult to support your existing client base in the same way. And Acuity was the right buyer for us. So, yeah, I mean, 10 years, not a long time, actually. It flies. It flies by. And there's also the fact that, as you get older, you think, well, maybe somebody else can help me take the strain. So there was an element of that as well.
Excellent. Well, the last thing I kind of wanna touch to before we run out of time is let's look to the future. Mark, with you now, obviously at Acuity, and David, there. How long have you been at Acuity, David?
It's coming up in a year now. Yeah.
Coming up to a year there. What's the future? What are we going to be seeing from you guys working together at Acuity? What are some of the innovations that we're going to see moving forward?
I mean, I'll have a first stab at it, but Mark's probably got as much of insight, if not more. I mean, certainly for me, the principal thing you're going to see from us is supporting the industry through what is, probably we're just at the start of the beginning of the change. We're going to go through everything from proliferation of faster payments, obviously adopting new standards, probably seeing many more viable cross-border options coming along, and that creates a lot of complexity, and we're really going to be there to try and smooth that out to allow people to take advantage of these additional options and some of the benefits they have around speed, liquidity, etc., and cost probably. So I think you're going to see a lot around that more sort of optimization route, that more, trying to just take away that complexity while leaving the residual benefits of speed and cost that, I think all of these changes are, increasing the speed of the payment and probably reducing the cost of it. So I think you'll see a lot more around that kind of analytics, optimization, etc. is going to come out as we kind of really help the Apply guys to take their roadmap and kind of turbocharge it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, faster payments around the world, or some form of faster payments, is growing very quickly. The speed of a transaction can be in milliseconds now, so we need to work hard on the efficiency of our API. But also, what really excites me is that we can do more than just validate a payment. With being part of Acuity, we can do, we can have a whole set of tools, KYC tools, AML tools, anything that can improve the whole payment process and make it more precise, better for the user, better for the provider of the service. We're in a really strong position to be a dominant force in that marketplace. And that's what really excites me. And then also we're working in areas around correspondent banking like Swift GPI. That again brings new opportunities. We're working with blockchain companies to help them with the payment process prior to it going on to a chain-like solution. So, rather than, you'd think after 10 years, you think, well, we've run out of ideas. I think we've got more ideas now than we had when we started. So that's what makes it exciting.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Thank you again for watching, everyone, and we can find out more still at acuity.com, right?
Yep.
Last thing for you guys, I'm asking this for everyone. Quarantine tips. Any tip off the top of your head?
Yeah, drink whiskey.
You go first, Mark.
No, drink whiskey.
I think my number one tip would be actually keep exercising. It's the one thing that I was already pretty active, but the one thing that I think really kind of sets my day up at the moment is going out for a run. And things don't look so bad when you're running by the Thames. It's all nice and sunny, and that's good. So that's my number one tip.
Brilliant, awesome. Thanks very much then, guys.